Gentlemen, dear colleagues, I'm very happy to start this new session where we will introduce the European Nanomedicine Characterization Lab, EUNCL in short. And I will make a general presentation, and then we will have a series of 5 presentations just presenting the different facets of this wonderful European initiative. So, and then we will postpone the questions to the end where we'll have, let's say, a question and answer session, okay? And just a practical point, I'm sorry, this is not, okay. The practical point is that there are some flyers available for those who didn't get a flyer. There are some spare ones. Yes, Simon, maybe there are some latecomers. Thank you. Okay, so just a general introduction. What is EUNCL? You have heard a lot about NCI-NCL, which is a very close acronym during these days. And 1 year ago, in May 2015, this EU Nanomedicine Characterization Laboratory has been funded under Horizon 2020, under the infrastructure program, to have Europe, to offer to Europe, let's say, a service infrastructure which is to some extent similar, or at least working in coherence and in close collaboration with our American partners. So who are the partners of this infrastructure, European infrastructure? So this is not a single site infrastructure. You know that Europe is not really in favor of single sites, you know, because each time you decide that one place should be the place for nanocharacterization, then immediately 27 other member states are complaining. So anyway, we have tried to handle this very complex diplomatic situation. And so here are the members on the slide set. So you can see that we are close to have more third parties than member states, you know, because we have Switzerland, Norway, and even UK. So I think, anyway, we were visionary, you know. And so what is the mission of EUNCL? The main mission is to perform and standardize the preclinical characterization of nanomedicines and to identify and to characterize the critical parameters related to the interactions of candidate nanomedicines with biological systems, and finally, to develop improved analytical methods to answer to the needs expressed by regulators. And you heard a lot about these famous regulatory needs yesterday in the different talks by regulators. What is the expected impact? What is the raison d'être of EUNCL? It is, EUNCL, as you know, is an initiative launched by the European Technology Platform on Nanomedicine. And EUNCL is part of the European Nanomedicine Translation Hub, like the pipelines, like the Translation Advisory Board and some other instruments, but it's not the topic of my talk today. So what is the impact, the expected impact of EUNCL? Is to accelerate the translation of nanomedicines towards the clinical evaluation, because we realize that too many candidate nanomedicines were blocked because they missed the access to nanocharacterization. Then, of course, is to improve the quality of data these sponsors are referring to in their IMP application by using recognized and standardized methods. And finally, to support the sponsors by addressing the feedback of decision makers regarding the specific nano properties. How does it work? So EUNCL, does it work? No, I think, so I should look at this, but move this way. So EUNCL, so once a developer, you will get a detailed presentation, but we call it a developer or a sponsor applies to EUNCL, and Simon will present the procedure, and you have it described also in the flyer. Then EUNCL will perform the full assay cascades, and after a certain time, then the final report is, the final deliverable is an analytical report, let's say the analytical ID of your nanomedicine, and then you can use it, or part of it, for your IMPT dossier. And of course, EUNCL is not, let's say, floating in the air. We are in close collaboration with the research community, and Sven-Even will present you, let's say, the relationship with the so-called satellite labs. But we are also in close collaboration with the regulators, because, you know, we always have to adapt, you know, the standards, the assays we are providing with the regulatory needs. And so this is, let's say, always evolving and not a static organization. Oh, sorry, I moved too fast. So how does it work? So even if it is a distributed facility, that means we have 7 analytical platforms, there is one single entry point for the application, and Simon is the entry point. And there is one single entry point for your sample, and Münster, Germany, is the only entry point. So for you, when the internal process is transparent, and you will not have, let's say, to interface with, let's say, tens of analytical infrastructures all over Europe. And because each infrastructure, of course, has its own expertise, and probably it will be presented later how it will in practice. What are the achievements? So I told you we have already 1 year of operation, but we didn't perform any assay on sponsored samples so far, just because the first year was fully dedicated to implementing the infrastructure, the methods, the protocols, and also, most important, the quality system. So that after 1 year and maybe 13 months all in all, we are ready now. We are in the last validation phase, so that we'll be ready to perform the first tests, analytical tests on the sponsored samples just after the summer break. And so we already have, it will be presented, selected the first batch of say satellite labs, and these transnational access campaign will now, as the first campaign has started, so the next ones are already on schedule. And so with that, I think I will finish. So, and then in the next presenters will be, so first we have, let's say, the presentation by Caroline Lemarchand from the company, from the pharma company, or nanopharma company, EUNCL, and presenting what is the point of view of an industrial user of EUNCL. And if you notice, you know, among the core partners of EUNCL, we have an American partner. So, you know, we have lost UK, but we have gained the US. So, you know, the boundaries, frontiers are moving, you know, these days in European projects. More seriously, we are very, very happy having this close collaboration with the American colleagues at NCL, because basically all the mistakes, the few mistakes they have done in the past 10 years, you know, we probably will not do the same. We will do other mistakes, but not the same. So we save a lot of resources. I mean, people, the European people have been trained over there, and we have, let's say, weekly interactions with them. So I think it is really one step forward towards harmonization of processes, and maybe one day on regulation between EU and US. Then Susan Bremer-Hoffman from GRC, ISPRA, will present the relationship we have established with the regulators. And then Sven-Even Borgås from SINTEF in Norway will present, let's say, the assays we're performing now and in the future. And finally, Simon will present about the practical terms on how you can apply to EUNCL and what you will get once you are selected. So with that, I'm finishing, and I will give the floor to Caroline. Caroline, the floor is yours.